Hi stamping friends, Sandi MacIver here. Welcome back. Today I'm going to share some fun backgrounds that I created for my Christmas cards using distressed oxides and some Nuvo shimmer powder, a little bit of spritzing, all that kind of stuff. I'm working on my Waffle Flowers water media mat. This is going to keep my little mess contained as we're going to get lots of water on here. And I'm going direct to the surface from the ink pad. So grab 4 distressed colors that you like and lay them down. And then I'm going to use my spritzer and just add a bit of water. I'm working with the Tim Holtz distressed watercolor paper for this project because it's nice and porous, and the smooshing technique. So I'm just laying it right in there and smooshing the ink right into my paper and picking up as much as I can. Some of these colors are a little bit on the light side. So about this point I've decided, okay, let's add a little bit of Nuvo shimmer powder. I'm working with Atlantis Burst, Blue BLITZ, Solar Flare, and Falling Leaves. And these are also activated with water, so you can just spritz them and spread them around. What I like about them is they have a little bit of mica in them, but they're also translucent. So I can see my distressed oxide base right through them. And basically what I'm doing is I'm adding color right over top, which is cool. So now I've got 2 layers of colors. When we get into stenciling, we're going to end up with 3 layers, which really makes these fabulous backgrounds, which we will make the cards after we get all of these done. So I tried picking up this mess that was left on here, but it is a little bit too runny and it's getting a little bit too blended. So cleaned it up and started with 4 new colors. I also pre-cut a whole bunch of the watercolor paper, and it's all 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, the A2 size. And I have a big pile of it sitting on the right hand side. Once you get this mess going, you kind of really don't want to stop. It's just kind of fun to keep going. And I have a bunch of paper towel over on the left hand side as my drying station. So you'll see me just kind of, it heads over there to dry. So here's another one, and again I'm spritzing, and I'm going to add some more of the Nuvo shimmer powders. I think this one is the Blue BLITZ. It's nice and bright, so it'll make a nice contrast with this. And a little bit of the yellow Solar Flare. And again, blending that out a little bit and just running it around and using my thumb and finger to fill in any of the white spots that are remaining. White spots really show up when this paint's dry, so try and add at least a little bit to each one of them. And cleaning up my mat again, and this time we're going to do a bright one in pink and purple, blue actually, with a little bit of purple, and then one of the kind of tealy colors. I decided I wanted to try a little bit of a bright one and see how this turned out. And for the purposes of the camera, it's got lots of pigment in it, so it's a lot easier to see. I'm just not really positive that it was my favorite on the finished, and you know me, I'm kind of a blue-green girl anyway, but hey, not everybody likes blue and green, so we gotta share the love a little bit. And again, trying to get rid of all those little white spots using my finger. Back to kindergarten and finger painting. That's the best part about this media mat, as far as I'm concerned. Love this thing. Okay, so set that aside, and I'm waiting for one more because I'm going to show you, if you do not have Nuvo shimmer powder, what you can do is you can take about 1/4 teaspoon of the Perfect Pearls. This is Ranger Perfect Pearls. It's dry powder. Mix it with water in your spritzer, and you can spritz it right on, and then you do not have to worry about using the Nuvo shimmers, because the Perfect Pearls will add the top layer of shimmer for you, which is kind of cool and kind of saves a bit of a step. And see, when I shook it there, it turned white. That was the pearls mixing up with the water. And this one is really, really pretty when it's dry. It's got a beautiful shimmer on it. So there you go. There's a few different ways of doing the background. Our next step for adding ink to our backgrounds is going to be stenciling. So I'm using some removable tape on the back, and I'm putting some pixie spray on the back of, this is a Tonic stencil, to place down over top of my dry watercolor paste. And I'm going to be using my life-changing brushes and again the distressed oxides to add a little bit more color to my piece. And so I'm grabbing a couple of the greens and the blues. I'm going to stay hopefully on the light side for this one, and just trying to decide which colors I want to use. Apparently not that one. I wanted a bit brighter green. There we go. We like that one. So Lucky Clover is the one I'm using for a little bit of the background on this one. And then I think I'm using tumbled glass as the blue. So you want it to be really random. Oh, no, I changed my mind. We're going into Broken China and adding that blue in, making sure that there's no white spots, and then hold on to one side of your stencil and pick it up and just see if you're getting the coverage that you're looking for. I am just looking to be able to slightly see the outline of the stencil in my background. I don't want it to take over my card, but there was a couple of white spots, so I'm just kind of adding a little bit of green in there, and there we go. I kind of like that one. For this next one, I'm going to be using a stencil from Dylusions, and again, I used pixie spray on the back. That stuff is amazing. It's tacky, so it stays on your piece, but it doesn't leave a mess on either your art piece or the back of your stencil, which is kind of cool. And again, I use the Post-it note tape just to hold it and have something to hold onto just for some additional protection. And again, this one's stars. I'm trying not to take over my entire background, but I'm just adding a little bit of color. And that one's just about perfect. Love it. For my third one, I'm using a Tim Holtz / Ranger stencil. And this is kind of Distressed Diamonds, I think it's called. And again, laying it down. This one isn't quite as big, so I end up having to move it. But I'm using the same colors. And I don't want to go completely over that yellow. I kind of like that yellow hanging out there. So I'm trying to be careful around the yellow and using my brushes and just adding a little bit of color in. These life-changing brushes are so much fun to play with. For this one, I'm going to use the same stencil, but this time I'm going to stencil in a little bit of purple over top. So you're going to see me add a little bit more color onto this one. It's Wilted Violet. I'm using the same green and blue as I did on the previous ones, and just adding some splotches of color. I have a friend who really likes purple, so I'm kind of incorporating it into her Christmas card. Sheila, you know who you are. And again, using the brushes, and there you go. There's all my finished backgrounds. So now we need to trim them down. If you do have some edges that you know about ahead of time, make your watercolor paper a little bit bigger than your finished project. And for this particular one, I think I did, and I'm cutting it down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And next, I'm going to do some die cutting and using my Gemini Junior, and I'm also playing with the Penny Black leaf stitched frames, and I'm going to be using these frames on my card. And you'll notice I don't cut mine apart. I left them that way, and I cut them all the time, and then I've got a UFO drawer that I just throw the extra pieces into. UFO stands for Unfinished Projects, as I'm sure you all have some. And there's a bunch of different sizes. I use all three. The fourth, the little center guy, I think it's small enough that it should be used probably for a sentiment. And so I'm cutting these a couple of times because, of course, I need 5 of them. And then I'm going to be using the My Favorite Things Layered Snowflake Dynamics. That's what's coming next. And I'm going to cut out a whole bunch of snowflakes. And I use some 110-pound cardstock for this. I also use some shimmery white cardstock, which also is a little bit thicker, and it's also got a nice shimmer on it. So I do a bunch of these and cut out a whole bunch of snowflakes. I won't put you through having to do all of these. Just know that I think I ran this through 4 or 5 times. And again, for now, I left my snowflakes all attached to each other. All my die cutting's now finished, so I have everything dry fitting onto the card front. So I'm just auditioning everything, making sure I have enough pieces. I attached everything together off screen using foam tape and white glue, just so you didn't have to watch me go through all that. And so I have them pretty much set up the way I want them. I did want to show you how I painted these Joy. This is a My Favorite Things Dynamics die, this beautiful little Joy. And again, I'm playing with my Nuvo shimmer powders, and I put a little bit of powder into these little water wells, added a few drops of water to it, and I actually painted these Joy die cuts. And so it's really easy to do. You just take a little bit, and you need just a tiny little amount, so don't squeeze very hard, just kind of tap it, and then add 2 or 3 drops of water, just like that. and mix it with the paintbrush, and you have instant paint. And the other thing that's cool about this is you can reactivate this whenever you want. So I leave this in my bathroom just sitting on the counter, and when I want to play with it again, I just put a few drops of water in and activate it, and off I go. I'm not wasting any of it. And I cut these 3 times and layered them so that they popped up a little bit, which made them a little bit more dense for the card, and they look really pretty. And as soon as we get the camera to focus, there we go. It's a little slow sometimes. Isn't that pretty? I love all the layers in the background. Just makes me happy. And those little snowflakes are just really easy to cut out, and they cut out like butter. They're just beautiful. So there's those guys. And then I used some Party Mix. And this is from Pretty Pink Posh, and these are jewels with flat backs. And so I put them onto the center of each of the snowflakes. And then for the other 3, I used a different package, and it had purples and blues in it. So this one here, Pretty Pink Posh again. Sorry, I can't remember the name of it at the moment. Basically, though, you could use any gems, jewels, sequins, anything that you have. So here's that bright pink and purple one. I love how it turned out. And the sentiment is from Concord and Ninth Happy Holidays labels. And there's this guy again, and this is the Birdie Brown Greetings Galore stamp set from Penny Black for these last 2 cards. And I white heat embossed the sentiment onto coordinating cardstock. Oh, come on, there we go. Isn't that one pretty? I think that's my favorite. Of course, it's blue and green. So there you go. There is 5 fabulous cards that you can make in one afternoon, just making a mess and playing around. I have listed all of the supplies that I used for the cards today underneath the video here. You can just click, and you can also go over to my blog where there is a PDF file and some additional instructions. And thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And until next time, toodles!